The Rhode Island Foundation, partnering with passionate Rhode Islanders to lead, transform, and inspire our state. Learn more at rhodeislandfoundation.org.
Welcome to another segment of In Another Opinion, a public information program where our discussions are focused on the communities of color in the state of Rhode Island. I'm your host, Peter Wells. My guests today are State Representative Grace Diaz and Mario Bueno, Executive Director of Progreso Latino. Thanks for coming and welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
The theme today is the state of Latino communities in Rhode Island. Let's talk a bit about where they are today. There's been so much immigration, so many different communities, so many different countries that are represented here in Rhode Island for the Latino community as a whole. And I want to get your perspective, since you work in the community and you represent the community, what your feelings are and your opinions are on their status today. So in a general conversation, what's your opinion on how Latino citizens are finding life in Rhode Island? Let's start with Grace.
Well, Rhode Island is Rhode Island ranked in the 12th position in the United States to be one of the most populated Latino. And here in Rhode Island, Latinos find the best place to live because when they move from their own native country, they feel like Rhode Island is a home similar to where we're coming from, where they feel peace and to growing their kids, to growing their children, when they're able to start a new business, go to school, and do so many things that they normally do in the country that they immigrate to the United States. So they find so many ways to get involved in politics, in the economy, and the daily activities. And I believe Rhode Island is a wonderful place for Latinos.
Very good. How about you, Mario? What's your sense?
Well, when you think of Latinos, sometimes you think of just people coming from abroad, but the Latino community here in Rhode Island and across the country, they're native born. They've been here for many years, and in Rhode Island in particular, the Latino community started developing around the late 60s, early 70s. So a lot of the people they've been here in the United States or were born here, and that community is larger than the immigrants that are coming in. So I say that in Rhode Island there is opportunity, but we're facing the same challenges that everyone else is facing. Sure. You know, the lack of opportunity for employment, and lack of opportunity for our families in general. But it's a struggle, and we are improving. The economy is improving slightly nationally and here in Rhode Island, and I think that's giving people hope, about the future. But we're still concerned about our young people because many of them are leaving the state because they don't have opportunities. And I guess that's a challenge that we have to think about, not only on a Rhode Island level, a state level, but on a regional level. How can we encourage further economic development here in Rhode Island, and also encourage people in the state to think of not only Rhode Island, but Massachusetts, Connecticut, our neighbors, as like a regional economy so that we can grow and develop.
So do you mean a separate economy?
I don't mean a separate economy. I mean that we may have to think a little differently about economic development in the state because it is difficult when, in my case, and that's similar in many cases, where people they leave the state because they don't find any growth opportunities in the state. And we're hoping we feel that that's changing a bit in Rhode Island.
Which is a segue to my second question, was the opportunities in Rhode Island. Are they less for the Latino community than for other communities? Or would you say it is equal, or what do you think?
Well, I agree with Mario that many Latinos facing difficulty to establishing here and they migrate to another state. But I also saw other Latinos find that Rhode Island is a place to reach the goals they're looking for, establishing the family, the business. And we see many Latinos in the state that they go through the process of government to get the education to establish in business, or just to get the support and get opportunity and the same resource that another community has to. So I see Latinos in both ways, some that they have to continue to move around the country to find an opportunity in the state, but I found Latinos that they are accustomed to what Rhode Island offered to them, and they get involved in politics, they get their own mark in different departments of government, they run for office and they win, and they find way to help each other. And that is one of the characteristics of Latino, that when you're there, sometimes you're able to help other people to reach those goals too.
Yeah, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. And you mentioned, is there the same level of opportunity for everyone? And we understand that, the Latino community, like other communities of color in the state, that they're not at the same level in terms of opportunity and development. And there's great disparities.
What are some of the obstacles?
So the obstacles are just the obstacles that any diverse community faces. So given that the Latino community is still relatively new in the state, there's still challenges. So there's a lack of social capital for these communities to be able to connect and develop. And that's why you see the flight, amongst the young population. And there's also adjustments. So we have systems, you have the private sector, the public sector, the third sector, but there's still big gaps, employers and other institutions, they still haven't adapted to the needs of the community and actually access the talent that the community has to offer. So I think there's still a big gap. But we're moving forward, and I think that some of the leadership in these institutions are starting to open their eyes to the opportunities that are in this community. A thriving community, part of the fabric of the state, and I think that provides a lot to our overall community. So we're encouraged, but we're also continuously challenged with the reality.
I agree with him, and I'm glad that we have a little bit different opinion in some areas.
Yes.
And we complement each other in this conversation. But I also agree that one of the biggest challenges for the Latino who just arrived to Rhode Island is the language barrier, which restrict them to have access to information, access to resources. Also, a lot of Latinos experience lack of access to job, which is increasing a little bit in those days because the government put an executive order to give a better opportunity to Latino. But I still discrimination based in education, based in language barrier, and so many other things that Latino face in every level of government. So I agree with him, but at the same time, I feel like Latinos are more conscious of the opportunity, and they take advantage of that. So even though it's still difficult, the education level that many Latinos reach right now, allowing them to take more opportunities for them. So we are moving slowly, and when young kids graduate from college and they don't feel like Rhode Island is offering them the opportunity they expecting, they move out, they're looking for a better opportunity. But it's still in Rhode Island a place to live for Latino, for a lot of Latinos.
Well, this is true, but we were talking earlier, and if you travel, I traveled every day up and down Broad Street or Elmwood Avenue, or if I'm in Central Falls, going to one of the Colombian restaurants I like to go to. The bottom line is there appears to be a great deal of entrepreneurship in the Latino community as compared to other communities of color in the state of Rhode Island. I haven't done any studies, and I guess I'd have to go to the Office of Diversity at the state, but I don't know that I would get the information I'm looking for as to the number of Latino businesses versus the number, let's say, of African American businesses in this state versus Cape Verdean businesses in the state. And they transcend each other, or even Native Americans. So the fact of the matter, it appears that the Latino community is far ahead in terms of establishing businesses. Do you see the same?
Yeah, I think that's just a reflective of most immigrant communities, that they strive, they come in with a lot of talents, a lot of professionals who have to find a different means. You find a new environment, and there's a lot of barriers to entry and professions, So if you're a doctor, then you can't be a doctor. You have to do something else, And that translates into energy, kinetic energy that builds, and you could see it, and it's vibrant within the, small business sector. But then they continue to, like Ms. Diaz says, there is still challenges. Learning a language takes a lifetime to learn a language. It's not in 2 days, and so I think that a lot of the institutions need to understand that and to take that into account and appreciate the value of the people in the community, because it's all about the community and we all make it happen, So I think that that's an area that we want to continue working on. But there is a lot of potential, and I think that this is a marvelous community, and for many reasons, and that's why families are attracted to come here.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I've been here since 1995, and I've seen tremendous growth in the Latino community, as well as the Asian community, by the way, as well.
Yes, it's growing.
So let's talk about resources, the lack thereof. What are the resources? What are the resources that you think would be more beneficial to the Latino community in helping to make that assimilation into this society, especially for new immigrants, not so much people who have lived here most of their life?
I feel like we are still so behind on offering opportunity to learn the language to people. Every place where you're going, for example, Dorcas Place, Genesee, Progreso Latino, is a long waiting list. People want to learn. They want to assimilate what the state can offer, but it's not many resources available for them. People have to wait and put the education in the second choice in their list because they don't have an opportunity to just dedicate it to education. They have to support the family. So one of the things resources that need to be available is more education. Also, another aspect is when people open a business, they need to have access to educate how to support the business, how to run the business. Those information sometimes are not available in Spanish, which is critical for people who has business. As you mentioned, Broad Street has a lot of business that provide everything for the family, but they don't have the support to growing at the level they should be growing as we compare to other business. So we have lack of resources in our community, and the government and agencies need to be more aware of that. The Latinos bring a lot to Rhode Island, but at the same time, they need support in so many areas that they are behind.
What do you think, Maria?
Well, I agree with her, and it's not only adult education that we need more resources for. There is a lack of resources in that area, but in education in general. So we know that Latinos are behind. They're not achieving the level of excellence that they need educationally, but it's a systems problem. It's not that students don't want to learn. It's the system needs to improve in order to be able to help these students so that they can excel. And so that's another area. I think that we have to think not only of the adults, but think of children who are going to be future adults that are going to be running the show, running the economy here in the state. So that's a challenge that's ever present, and I think that many superintendents and educational leaders, the commissioner, are all thinking about how can we bridge the gap, education gap in the state.
Is one of the issues that the African American community talks about often when we talk about education is that there aren't enough teachers who look like me. Would you say that's an issue as well in the school systems?
That's a big issue. And I think some of the school leaders are thinking about how to attract people of color into that sector, to the education sector. But unfortunately, it just takes too long. It takes too long, and we need it now. And unfortunately, there's not enough it's not so much the creativity, but some of these structures are very stagnant. And to break through them is very difficult. But we have to think more creatively about how to support our students and support our communities in different ways, not the same way as usual, but to think and encourage the involvement of the community in developing those answers and taking those suggestions seriously. and implementing them. And I know there's barriers in doing so, but I think that's what's going to create the vibrancy that we want in the community.
Well, I think that one area which has shown tremendous growth in the Latino community is the political arena. And we've had 2 mayors in the city of Providence, the capital city, that are Latino. We have the mayor of Central Falls, who also is Latino, and I guess Jimmy's probably one of the youngest mayors that there's ever been. So it's hard to say that the communities aren't focused and aren't developing, and when you can elect a mayor. I don't think there's ever been an African-American mayor in the city of Providence or Central Falls.
Well, something that Latinos bring to the United States is the culture around politics. And Latinos love politics as well. They like baseball or soccer or any other exports. And they bring that with them to United States, to Providence. And it's a great opportunity for Latinos to get involved, participate, supporting candidate or running for office. And I'm very happy to see that the Latino community in general is given the importance of politics has by knowing that when you involve in politics or you get elected, you bring that opportunity for the whole Latino community. So to me, it's so amazing to see how we get involved, we participated, we passion, and that passion is what determines the accomplishment that the Latino community has. And you see my good friend, Secretary of the State, Nelly Golbea, and you see other positions, not just elected positions, but you can see that in the judiciary system, that you see so many judges that are also Latino. In every part of the government, you can find Latinos be a leader and doing great job. So in that area, we are moving slowly, but are moving, and please me to see how Latinos see the importance of getting involved in politics.
Yeah, do you agree, Mario?
To a certain extent, I think that we're just starting to show that development, political development, and getting some folks elected. But still, when you look at the legislature, the minority caucus is only, maybe, what is it, 4 or 5 people?
No, in total, we are 11.
11. So that's 11, out of a big number.
But how many are Latino of that 11, Grace?
6.
Which
Latino.
is the majority.
Yeah. So, our population, the state population of Latinos is over 13% statewide. So we want to see that reflected in the state legislature.
I would like to see it reflected, but you have to see the history and when we started getting involved in politics and how long it took us to get there. So to me, it's a great accomplishment.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though we are a small number, but we are very vocal. And the leaders know that we are there because we made sure they know we're there defending the community. So I agree with you, Mario, but at the same time, it's something that we accomplished in some period of the time.
Yeah.
Over time, we accomplished that.
Well, and in fact of the matter is that there's more representation of the Latino community in elected positions than the African-American community, who's been here a lot longer. I mean, how many, we have what, maybe 3 African-American legislators right now?
4.
Is there 4?
But if we count in Rhode Island in general, we have 23 Latino elected officials, including Newport, including Central Falls, in every level of government, like city council.
Yes.
We are 23, so we are moving, we are growing. And it's amazing to think about Newport has one city council. And we have Capelos in Central Falls where the majority of elected officials are Latino. So if we start to see that as a group, individual, we have accomplished a lot. As you mentioned, it's more than African American.
Yes.
When you put the numbers, it's bigger.
Absolutely.
Big numbers. Yeah.
The representation is better.
Yeah.
Better percentage, as you're referring to.
Yes.
Let's shift a minute and just talk a little bit about the future. Where do you see, or let me back up. Let me give you the question this way. The Latino community is representative of many different Spanish cultures or Latin cultures. I don't know which is the largest. Do you have a sense for that, Mario?
Yeah, there's different nationalities represented under the Latino umbrella.
Yes.
But we work together as one community, even though there's always divisions and
Of course.
you know. But the largest community is the Puerto Rican community, followed by the Dominican community.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Grace said the same thing off camera,
Yeah.
and I would not have guessed that because of what I see and what I hear, especially that in the business sector it appears to be predominantly Dominican, not Puerto Rican. But it would make sense that the Puerto Rican community would be the larger, since Puerto Ricans have been coming here since the 50s as citizens, unlike people coming from other countries, you know, through the visa immigration process. So, given that Puerto Ricans are the larger community, would you say that they are more the leaders in the Latino community, or would you say not necessarily?
Not necessarily, again, because I guess what ties the Latino community obviously is language, right, and the history. So Latin America, you know, and so even if these communities don't speak to each other on a regular basis in the exterior, you know, in Latin America, they merge here. So, you know, what would be the chance that a Dominican meets a Peruvian or an Ecuadorian, you know? Probably not too much, but they come here and they get to know each other, and the language is part of that connection, and also the history, the Latin American history. And when you're a minority, you know, you get together, you know. So we talk to our Cape Verdean family, and we speak to all the folks, because we have a shared history, you know, of being minorities here in the United States, and that's a difficult history.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really difficult. You know, expressing what your needs are, what your vision is for the future, you know, and if it's hard, sometimes you don't get a seat at the table, and what we're asking for is for a seat at the table, so that everyone can participate and everyone can benefit from the fruits of their labor.
Would you say that the goals or objectives are different from one Latino community from another? Let's say Puerto Rican from Dominican, or Dominican from Guatemalan, or whatever?
I would say in general, we share the same goal to accomplish our own dream and so many other things that we maybe have in mind as a community. But it's a little difference from each one. And I would say that when you have to come here with nothing in your hands, and you have to fight for every single thing, your mentality is totally different when you have secure home, food, and other resources when you come to Rhode Island. So when you have the mindset that you don't have to fight for those things, it's different when you come here with nothing and you have to start with zero. So that makes difference between every single ethnic group. For example, Puerto Ricans are part of the United States. Right. They don't have to fight for visa, for immigration status, or other basic needs that other community has. Dominican came here, or maybe Bolivian, Peruvian, other community, they had to start in zero. Fight first for the immigration status, and then try to incorporate to Rhode Island in so many areas, education, food, job, and so many things. So that is what sometimes move one community farther than other. When you have basic things, you may be not looking the same way or the same energy than others. That is my opinion.
Yeah, it's the immigrant tradition. So, you know, it's that pioneering, you know, that sense of being a pioneer, of pushing forward, of moving your hopes and dreams forward. And amongst the Latino ethnic groups, you know, that are part of that umbrella, there is differences. So the same challenges that, you know, Italians faced, you know, the Irish came first, then came the Italian, you know, to the States. And then the Italians were discriminated, you know. Well, it's the same amongst even the Latino groups. So there's discrimination between the Latino groups. And our newest groups coming in, Guatemalans, which are a growing part of the population, they often express to me personally, you know, I'm being discriminated by this other person. I'm going through these challenges, and I'm not being listened to or appreciated, or I'm treated differently. So it hasn't changed. History keeps repeating itself, even amongst similar groups. Mm-hmm. But there's the levels of poverty are different amongst these ethnic groups within the Latino umbrella. Grace mentioned the Puerto Rican community. Unfortunately, their economic, the Puerto Rican community here, their disparities are even greater. They may have the benefit of being able to have citizenship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are economically better off as part of the community. So we have to be sympathetic to and also open-minded to these differences, because unfortunately history repeats itself. Yes. And we think that by now we'd learn, right? And we'd be proactive, and we'd have systems that were open and that would greet and embrace people who want to improve the community mm-hmm. and contribute to it. But unfortunately, the systems, they oscillate, and they don't, okay, well, we took care of them. Why do we have to take care of these folks? Or why do we have to? And it's all about opportunity. Yes. So the longer it takes, right, for someone to get what they need, the longer they take to be full contributors to the process, right. And offer the most that they can. And that's what we want, As a director of Progreso Latino, that's what we're fighting for every day. We want, hey, you know what? There's opportunity here that you're missing an opportunity. We could really create, a better way, and we could really get more done if we all work together and mm-hmm. we accept change and we change. Unfortunately, change is hard to come by.
Oh, it is.
In many ways, yeah.
It's the same in politics. Mm-hmm. I'm representing a district which has a lot of diversity. The majorities are Latinos. And when I'm in the State House, even though when we pass legislation affect the entire state, I keep in mind that I'm fighting in looking for better opportunity for the Latino community. So everything happening in the state, I know translated to affect good or bad to the Latino community in general in the state. So I keep in mind to keep the community informed, bring them to the system to get involved. That way they get educated by themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's a constantly actions that involve everything, like Mario, the organization, and me, and in the politics and the government. So we have to keep that in mind. The only way we can try to move the agenda of the Latinos a little bit, those who are in charge.
Listen, we have run out of time. This was a quick half hour. It's such an interesting discussion, but we have run out of time. But I want to thank today's guests, Representative Grace Diaz and Mario Bueno from Progreso Latino, and you, the viewers, for tuning in to another segment of In Another Opinion. A special thanks to Rhode Island PBS for making this program possible. I'm your host, Peter Wells. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at inanotheropinion@gmail.com, and have a great day.
The Rhode Island Foundation, partnering with passionate Rhode Islanders to lead, transform, and inspire our state. Learn more at rhodeislandfoundation.org.